Tale 1. The Woods Behind Campus. Miranda Chen loved her morning runs through the nature preserve behind State University. The trails wound through dense pine forest, offering peaceful solitude before her 11 a.m. chemistry class. She'd been running the same 3-mile loop for 2 years, always taking her phone and pepper spray, always telling her roommate exactly when she'd return. That Tuesday in October felt different somehow. The forest was unusually quiet, no bird songs, no squirrel chatter. Even the usual insect hum seemed muted. Miranda noticed fallen leaves scattered in strange patterns across the trail, as if something large had been dragging through the underbrush recently. 20 minutes into her run, Miranda heard footsteps behind her. Not the steady rhythm of another jogger, but irregular sounds. Step, step, pause, step, pause, step, step. She turned around but saw only empty trail disappearing into morning shadows. The footsteps resumed when she continued running, always the same distance behind her, matching her pace but never quite catching up. Miranda tried stopping suddenly to catch whoever was following, but the sound stopped too, as if her pursuer could anticipate her movements. Near the 2-mile marker, Miranda smelled something wrong, a sweet, cloying odor that reminded her of rotting flowers mixed with something chemical she couldn't identify. The smell grew stronger as she approached a bend in the trail where thick pines blocked the morning sunlight. That's when she saw the figure standing motionless among the trees. Tall, impossibly thin, wearing what looked like strips of bark and moss draped over its frame. Its face was obscured by shadow, but Miranda could feel its attention focused entirely on her. The thing didn't move, didn't breathe, just waited like a predator that had found its prey. Miranda backed away slowly, heart hammering against her ribs. The figure remained perfectly still, but somehow she knew it was tracking her movement with invisible eyes. She turned and ran harder than she'd ever run before, crashing through branches and underbrush to get off the main trail. Behind her, she heard pursuit. Not footsteps anymore, but something moving through the forest with fluid speed, branches snapping and leaves rustling as it closed the distance between them. Miranda's phone showed no signal bars. The GPS couldn't locate her position. Even her fitness tracker seemed to malfunction, displaying impossible readings that made no sense. She burst out of the tree line into the campus parking lot, gasping and shaking. Students walked between classes as if nothing had happened. The normal world continued exactly as she'd left it 30 minutes earlier. Miranda never returned to those trails. 6 weeks later, her roommate Jessica reported that Miranda had never come back from her morning run. Campus security found Miranda's car in the parking lot, keys in the ignition, phone and pepper spray on the passenger seat. Search teams scoured the nature preserve for days. They found Miranda's running shoes placed neatly side by side on the trail at the 2-mile marker, but no other trace of her. No footprints, no torn clothing, no signs of struggle. The shoes were completely clean, as if they'd been carefully washed and arranged for someone to find. Local police interviewed students and faculty, but no one had seen Miranda that morning. Security cameras showed her car arriving at the parking lot, but never captured her returning from the trails. The case remains open. Sometimes hikers report that sweet, chemical smell near the 2-mile marker. Others claim to see a tall, thin figure watching from the tree line. But no one has ever found any trace of Miranda Chen. The nature preserve closed those particular trails after 3 more students reported being followed by something that moved through the forest without making normal footstep sounds. The area beyond the 2-mile marker remains off limits, though no official explanation was ever given. Tale 2. The City Park Vanishing. Riverside Park was 8-year-old Tommy Martinez's favorite place in the world. Swings, slides, a duck pond, and plenty of space to run around while his mom Sarah watched from her usual bench near the playground. They visited every Saturday afternoon, part of their post-divorce routine that gave both of them something to look forward to. That September day started normally. Tommy raced toward the swings while Sarah settled onto her bench with a book and coffee. The park was moderately busy. A few other families, some joggers on the path around the pond, teenagers playing frisbee on the grass. Sarah looked up from her book every few minutes to check on Tommy. He was easy to spot in his bright red jacket, pumping his legs on the swing set and laughing with pure joy, normal Saturday happiness. At 2:15 p.m., Sarah glanced up to see Tommy talking to someone near the edge of the playground, a person in dark clothing who seemed to be showing him something in their hands. Sarah couldn't see clearly from her distance, but something about the interaction felt wrong. She stood up and started walking toward them, but before she'd taken 5 steps, Tommy and the stranger were gone. Sarah ran to where she'd seen them, calling Tommy's name. Other parents joined the search immediately. Within minutes, half the park was helping look for a boy in a red jacket who seemed to have simply vanished. Police arrived within 10 minutes. They questioned everyone in the park, but nobody remembered seeing Tommy talking to anyone. No one had noticed a child leave with an adult. The teenagers playing frisbee had been facing the playground the entire time and swore they would have seen anything unusual. Security cameras from the park's entrance showed Tommy arriving with Sarah, but no footage of him leaving. The cameras had clear views of all park exits, yet somehow captured no trace of Tommy's departure. The investigation expanded rapidly. Police interviewed neighbors, checked registered sex offenders, reviewed traffic cameras from surrounding streets. Hundreds of volunteers searched nearby woods, abandoned buildings, and drainage systems. Tommy's red jacket was never found. No witness ever came forward. No demands for ransom were received. Sarah spent every day for the next 6 months sitting on that same bench, watching the playground and hoping Tommy would come running back to the swings. Other parents began avoiding the park, unsettled by her constant presence and the memory of how easily a child could disappear. 3 years later, Sarah still visits Riverside Park every Saturday. She brings a book and coffee, sits on the same bench, and watches families enjoy activities that were stolen from her in a moment of inattention. Sometimes she sees children in red jackets and her heart stops. Sometimes she notices adults lingering too long near playgrounds, studying the patterns of families and children, but she never sees Tommy. The park installed additional security cameras after Tommy's disappearance, but they haven't prevented other strange incidents. Parents report their children talking to invisible friends near the playground. Kids describe a nice person in dark clothes who shows them interesting things and asks them to come play somewhere more fun. Most children forget these encounters quickly, but their parents remember. Riverside Park is no longer the joyful place it once was. Too many families have felt that moment of panic when their child talks to someone who shouldn't be there, someone who vanishes the moment adults pay attention. Tommy Martinez was never found. His case remains active, but with no leads, no evidence, and no witnesses, police have little hope of solving it. The official file contains hundreds of pages of reports, interviews, and dead ends. But it doesn't contain any explanation for how an 8-year-old boy could vanish from a crowded public park in broad daylight without a single person seeing him leave. Tale 3: The House Party Disappearance. College senior Ashley Brooks loved parties, especially the big ones at Mike Peterson's house off campus. Mike threw legendary events. Great music, interesting people, and enough space that you could find quiet corners for conversation or loud rooms for dancing. Ashley had been to dozens of parties there and always felt safe with her close friend group. That Friday night in November seemed perfect. Ashley arrived with her roommates Katie and Jen around 9 p.m. The house was already packed with students from several local colleges, but Ashley knew most of the crowd. She wore her favorite blue dress and felt confident and happy. The party flowed through the entire house. Music in the living room, quieter conversations in the kitchen, games in the basement, smokers on the back porch. Ashley moved between groups, catching up with friends and enjoying the social energy. Around 11:30 p.m., Ashley told Katie she was going upstairs to use the bathroom. The downstairs bathroom had a long line, and she knew Mike wouldn't mind if she used the one in his bedroom. She'd done it before at other parties. Katie watched Ashley climb the stairs, blue dress visible through the crowd until she reached the second-floor landing. That was the last time anyone saw Ashley Brooks. When Ashley didn't return after 20 minutes, Katie went upstairs to check on her. The bathroom was empty. Mike's bedroom was empty. All the upstairs rooms were empty. Ashley wasn't anywhere on the second floor. Katie assumed Ashley had come back downstairs a different way and was somewhere else in the party, but after searching every room, every corner, every possible hiding spot, Katie realized Ashley was simply gone. The party was still in full swing. Music played, people danced, conversations continued. Nobody had seen Ashley leave. The front door had been constantly monitored by people coming and going, and several friends swore they would have noticed Ashley's bright blue dress if she tried to exit. Katie and Jen organized a systematic search. They questioned everyone at the party, checked every closet, looked in the garage, searched the backyard. Ashley's purse was still in the kitchen where she'd left it. Her car was still parked outside. Police arrived around 2 a.m. They cleared the house and conducted a thorough investigation. No signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play, no indication that Ashley had left voluntarily. Her phone was in her purse, her keys were with her car, her wallet contained her identification and $60 cash. Interviews with party guests revealed nothing useful. Several people remembered seeing Ashley throughout the evening, but no one could pinpoint exactly when they'd last seen her. Time blurred together in the social chaos of a large party. Mike Peterson was devastated. His house had hosted hundreds of parties over the years without incident. Police searched every inch of the property, including areas that seemed impossible for someone to hide. They found nothing. The investigation expanded to nearby properties, wooded areas, and abandoned buildings. Search dogs followed Ashley's scent to the edge of Mike's backyard, then lost the trail completely. It was as if Ashley had simply stopped existing at the property line. Security cameras from neighboring houses showed party guests arriving and leaving throughout the night, but never captured Ashley departing. Traffic cameras from surrounding streets found no trace of her. Ashley's parents hired private investigators who reviewed every detail of the case. They interviewed party guests who hadn't spoken to police, examined Ashley's social media for any hints about her plans or concerns, and followed leads that took them across multiple states. Nothing. Ashley Brooks vanished from a crowded house party without anyone seeing her leave, without taking her belongings, without any explanation or evidence of what happened to her. The case remains open, but investigators have no active leads to pursue. Mike Peterson moved out of that house and never threw another party. He couldn't shake the feeling that something in his home had claimed Ashley, that his parties had somehow attracted attention from something that took people. Other students avoid large house parties now, remembering how easily someone could disappear from a crowded social gathering. Parents worry about their children attending events where supervision is impossible and exit strategies are unclear. But mostly, people try not to think about Ashley Brooks and how she walked upstairs in a blue dress and never came back down. Tale 4: The Rest Stop Mystery. Long-distance truck driver Frank Williams had driven the same route for 15 years. Interstate 80 from Denver to Sacramento, stopping at the same truck stops, eating at the same diners, maintaining schedules that kept freight moving across the country. He knew every mile marker, every exit, every place to grab fuel and food. The Fairfield rest area was one of his regular stops. Clean restrooms, decent food, safe parking for his 18-wheeler. Frank had probably stopped there 300 times over the years, usually around midnight, when cross-country schedules demanded driving through the night. That Tuesday in January felt different somehow. The rest area was nearly empty, which was unusual for midnight on a weeknight. Just Frank's truck, one passenger car, and a couple of long-haul rigs parked far from the building. The fluorescent lights seemed dimmer than normal, casting strange shadows between the picnic tables. Frank parked and headed toward the restroom building. The passenger car was a white sedan with Nevada plates, engine still warm. Someone had arrived recently but wasn't visible anywhere around the facilities. Inside the restroom, Frank heard sounds from one of the stalls. Not normal bathroom sounds, but something like fabric rustling and a soft tapping noise, as if someone were gently knocking on the walls. The tapping had an odd rhythm. Tap, tap, pause. Tap, pause. Tap, tap. Frank called out, "Everything okay in there?" but received no response. The tapping stopped immediately. Frank used the facilities quickly, washed his hands, and headed back toward his truck. That's when he noticed the white sedan's driver door was standing open, interior light illuminating an empty vehicle. Keys hung in the ignition, purse on the passenger seat, phone plugged into the charging port. Frank looked around the rest area. No one was visible. The other truck drivers were presumably sleeping in their cabs. The building was empty except for the still occupied restroom stall. Frank went back inside and knocked on the stall door. "Hello? You okay? Your car door is open outside." No response. No sounds. Complete silence. Frank bent down and looked under the stall door. He could see feet, women's shoes, and the bottom of jeans, but the feet weren't positioned normally. They seemed to be several inches off the ground, as if the person were standing on tiptoes or hanging. Frank called 911 immediately. Police and paramedics arrived within 20 minutes, but when they opened the locked stall door, it was empty. No person, no evidence of anyone having been there. The restroom was thoroughly searched, but revealed nothing unusual. The white sedan belonged to Maria Santos, a 34-year-old nurse driving from Las Vegas to visit family in San Francisco. Her sister reported her missing when she failed to arrive at their planned meeting time. Maria's cell phone showed her last location as the Fairfield rest area at 11:57 p.m. Security cameras at the rest area had malfunctioned that night, recording only static during the crucial time period. Police interviewed Frank extensively, but his story never changed. He'd heard someone in the restroom, seen feet under the stall door, but found nothing when authorities opened it. Maria's car contained her luggage, medications, and work uniform for the next day. $500 cash remained in her wallet. Her phone showed no unusual calls or messages. Everything suggested she'd planned to continue her journey normally. Search teams checked the surrounding area for miles. Dogs followed scent trails that led from the restroom to the parking lot, then disappeared completely. It was as if Maria had walked into that stall and simply ceased to exist. The investigation considered every possibility. Had Maria met someone at the rest area? Was she suffering from a medical condition that caused confusion? Had she left her car deliberately and departed with someone else? Nothing fit the evidence. Maria Santos was a responsible professional with close family relationships and no history of erratic behavior. She had no reason to abandon her car and disappear voluntarily. Frank Williams still drives the same route, but he no longer stops at the Fairfield rest area. Other truck drivers report strange experiences there. Sounds from empty restrooms, doors that open by themselves, the feeling of being watched from the shadows between buildings. The rest area remains open, but travelers who know the story tend to use other facilities. Those who don't know often report unsettling experiences. Unusual sounds, doors that won't stay closed, and the persistent feeling that someone is just out of sight, waiting in places where people are most vulnerable. Maria Santos was never found. Her case remains open, but investigators have no leads to pursue. Her family still hopes for answers, but after 5 years, Hope has been replaced by the terrible uncertainty of never knowing what happened to someone who simply walked into a restroom and never came out. The Fairfield rest area keeps detailed security logs now, but they don't explain how people can vanish from locked rooms or why some travelers report conversations with someone who isn't there when they turn to look.